Hey all, welcome to the first episode of the Essentialists with me. I'm Coach Michael San and King Levi McQuart. Am I pronouncing it
Pretty good.
correctly? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty good.
All right. Thank you. And so me and Levi are. I'm honored to call him friends, and we've known each other for how long now? 4, 5 years, I believe, or so.
Yeah, coming on 6. Yeah, 4 for
Wow.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Times flies when you have fun. And so
Yeah.
both of us practice kettlebell sport, and both of us, as all of us, have a story. And we decided, and we've been talking a lot, to make this show and make these talks about kettlebell sport and about more than a platform, because for both of us, the way you lift is the way you live. And kettlebell sport is new to the general public as something to practice. And it is known as sport, as a competitive sport, but not much beyond that. And both of us have questions like, what is it for? What is it good for? Can you build muscles? Why doing half an hour, 10 minutes? Why not hard style? What's the difference between GS, girevoysport, which is kettlebell sport, and CrossFit, and etc., etc. And moreover, even over the technical issues like programming, it's completely different game than anything people know. And so we've decided just to like go live and really talking about it and discussing it because it did for us only good, and we do want to share our passion for this amazing discipline and do justice to it. Am I correct, Sir Levi? I made you a note.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah. So, we have talked that kettlebell sport, GS, is definitely more than just a platform. And so, platform as in competing. And so, I think that what we've experienced both as competitors and as coaches and as programmers and husbands and fathers, and there's so much that goes into how you live your life on multiple facets. And so I think that obviously you and I have discussed this behind the scenes many times, an ongoing conversation. And so we are trying to then bring kind of our thoughts behind the scenes to more of a public platform, and not only um, reach more people maybe, but use kettlebells as that avenue. And I think that my life has changed dramatically since having you as a mentor and as a friend to help lead me along, to kind of open my eyes to what kettlebell sport is versus just to what, picking up a kettlebell and swinging it, between your legs for movement or exercise purposes. So, I'm excited to be here with you, just because of everything that has happened in my life, just from having a new view on training and exercise.
So
So it's definitely a mutual feeling.
absolutely, thank you. Um, Listen, like people know you and people follow you. However, I would like to ask you again, and again, it's an open question for the public. Like, I first knew you from the Strengths Matter podcast when, in my times when I was listening, and when I saw you, I saw this insane, what was it, 90 kilos Turkish getup with a barbell and chains. That was your feat of strength,
Yeah,
something?
some somewhere in there. Yeah, with chains, without chains. I've been fortunate enough to break the 200 pound, 90 kilos or 91 kilos, barbell get up. Yeah, somewhere in there. It's on YouTube somewhere.
Yeah, so and like for me, I followed you and you were an inspiration for me because I was looking and I say like to me like Turkish get up was okay, like 48 kilos. And then I remember like it was yesterday, I saw you doing GS and I was like, wow, like and I was really excited because I never thought that somebody like you who's very strong and like masculine will look because GS was kind of this niche like like no even more years ago, almost 8 years ago, from the Strengths Matter podcast and everything. Kind of niche. It was a sport. It was when the like Soviet competing team with like all the big names who actually created the sport, like Merkulin, if you're following it, and Rudnev and Vasiliev and Denisov, and like they traveled US with the seminars showing stuff. And when I saw you, it was something like, wow, I was humbled by somebody like you doing or giving a shot to something that I was so passionate about and that literally saved my life. And then I wrote you and saying like, wow, and like kind of we've began to talk since. So can you elaborate what brought you to it? Like, how did you even came from this, huge weights that you were swinging to beginning something with like kind of lightweight?
Um, yeah, so I had been practicing hardstyle. I was introduced to hardstyle by a friend of mine, former client, current client, chiropractor, by the name of Joshua Bourbon, and good friend. And he had taught me the basics, and I went and got my RKC, and was just doing the standard kettlebell, two hand swing, single arm swing, get up, snatch, things like that. And I had evolved through Mark Rifkin had introduced me to Kenneth J and Viking Warrior conditioning. I'd always kind of been more of an endurance based hard stylist, if that's a thing. And I learned about Viking Warrior conditioning from Mark, and that really kind of resonated with me. And I enjoyed the pursuit of doing. It ended up being 8 snatches every 30 seconds with a 24 for 40 minutes, and from there I kind of on my own unknowingly started to use a 24 and started doing half marathons, just hard style snatch, switching every 10 reps or whatever it was. For I built up to 600 in a half an hour, having no idea that there was a thing in GS with marathon and half marathons. And I kind of stumbled upon it. I went to the Arnold Classic in would have been March of 2018, right before I turned 40. And I went to see my friend Joe Daniels, and we went to the Arnold Classic and went to the Kettlebell Expo. And this was my first time seeing a live event. And I can just remember seeing some athletes using doing long cycle with 32s that were much smaller than me. Um, and I was blown away. I couldn't believe the amount of strength and power these athletes had. And, because I believe the marketing, I believe my own hype that, if you wanted to be strong, you did hard style. And if you wanted to be an endurance runner type athlete, then you did GS. And when I saw the athletes tossing 32s around, I knew that there was something different that I maybe hadn't quite understood up until this point. And that's when I learned about marathon as well. And I realized that with what I enjoy doing, snatching, um, that maybe marathon, because it was multi-switch, I knew my limitations with a one switch in 10 minutes probably wasn't going to happen. At least I didn't have the patience to train for it at that time. But I knew I could do a half hour. So I reached out to Team USA rep Judy and expressed my interest, and then I learned that I had to do it with a 32. And so, like, well, a half 32, that sounds absolutely terrible. But then I was intrigued enough that I went after that, and so I ended up getting my CMS online and joining Team USA in Spain in 2018, and competing in half marathon, half snatch with the 32, and earned my master of sport. And that's when we would have been talking as I was preparing for that. That reached out to me, and or you hadn't started programming for me yet, but we were communicating, and um, I decided that I was going to do this myself because I'm Levi and need anybody's help. And I realized after I performed in Spain that I had left a lot of reps while I hit master of sport, and that was my goal. I left a lot of reps on the platform. I knew that I was highly inefficient, and I did not train anywhere near as close to the way I should have, and I had a lot of learning to do. And so when I got back from Spain, motivated and humbled is when you started the program for me, and then um, we went to be Arnold to compete the next year, and then you prepared me for Poland, and then COVID happened. Um,
And here we
I've
are.
done a lot more. Yeah, and here we are. Yeah, and I've done a lot more online. I haven't traveled overseas, but I have traveled stateside a handful of times, and but yeah, so that opened the world. Actually, marathon opened the world to the classic list for me. And so originally, as we have joked numerous times, that um, I wanted nothing to do with two bells. I had, but now I've been bitten by the two bell bug and pursuing classic long cycle sets. So it's been like I said in my little introduction, like I owe so much um, to having you, going from, and again, just I don't mean to be difficult or anything, but like what I started with, my foundation of of hard style, and what I learned from Mark Rifkin, and my good buddy Stephen Coons, watching his strength feats and his juggling and his mobility, and with heavy loads. I mean, that's kind of what I started at. We talked about the get ups and event presses. Stephen and I would go back and forth with some of that kind of stuff, but for whatever reason, the endurance side of things really, and I couldn't be happier with the journey I'm currently on. So anyway, I have talked. I don't know. That was a long rant. So uh, please, I apologize for dominating the conversation.
No, no, no. On contrary. Um, how's your father connected to all of it? Because both you and I preach something that is more than okay, stand there and do this lift for 20 minutes. Because it's nice, it's challenging, but it's not enough to keep you usually. And you talk about your father a lot. Like he is a guide and
Yeah.
an Northern Star for you. So apologize for changing of scenery. We are humbled by the gods of the internet and connection. So we are doing our best to bring the best quality of a story to you. So please, sorry, Levi, do continue.
Yeah. So you had asked me just about the role my father has played in my life and business and things like that. So I was saying that this May will be 18 years since his passing, and I've talked a lot. If anyone that follows me on social media or heard a podcast, or whatever, has no doubt heard most of the story. But my dad has passed on from pancreatic cancer, and um, I was very heavy at the time, almost 300 pounds myself, and so that's kind of that is the catalyst that got my attention, and got me to change my life around. And I was saying that I had originally started to follow a guy by the name of Ross Enamite, and I like to definitely mention him because outside of you, Michael, Ross was the guy that got my attention as far as how I should start to train and eat. And that was kind of how I lived my life up until kettlebells, and then I started the hard style stuff, and then we met here approaching 6 years. So that is has kind of been the journey is the losing or the passing of my dad, and just from living a poor life, as far as poor food choices and limited activity and things like that, and meeting or finding Ross, and then morphing that into what you're doing with me or have done with me and my competition. And so um, not only competing, but now even just training for higher quality of life. And so like I enjoy, as a former athlete, 45, almost 46, um, as a former wrestler growing up, and then um, enjoying the competition, checking off that ego box, and but also much more than that is of being healthy and well for my family, and putting my best foot forward. So
Ross is influenced like many of us. I remember seeing him too, and it was crazy. His one arm ab wheel stuff,
yeah,
and
yeah.
like the guy is really amazing. Like his feats of strength and his CDs, like it was wow. Like it was. I remember it because it was the beginning, at least. It came to Israel and exploded this functional training and stuff. And like, here's the question, uh, because I believe people want to ask it: to be healthy, you could follow Ross's way. You could do the hard style training, this crazy stuff you have done with the burpees on these, narrow base handles, and with the Atlas stones and everything that you did. Got you great physique, slim body. You've cleaned your diet, which basically this is the only thing that is stake. If you want to look good, just clean up your mess in the kitchen and you'll be fine. And just, pump iron like Schwarzenegger says. Okay, you don't like, come on, let's admit it. You don't need to lift kettlebells, especially sports style, if you want to be strong and healthy. But and again, like the question is why did you, and eventually I'll say about this too, but what made you hooked on this and ditch
Well,
every else fun? Because it's not fun. Come on, kettlebell sport, it's not fun,
no.
and it's very and you know what, it's very like, we can debate even on functional, because you're doing less range of motion, you're doing less functional patterns, you don't squat, you don't, it's it's very, very sport specific. And yes, you kind of like, chose it, and obviously you do your GPPs, but it's kind of, this is what's set in to you. Why?
At first it was just there was benchmarks established. There's judging involved. There is from the ego standpoint, the competitive standpoint. I knew that obviously I was watching that first event at the Arnold was eye opening. It was challenging. Then actually competing and knowing that I had more to give. So that was all like from a challenge and an athlete standpoint. But as we've talked, like the deeper I get into this sport and pursue different events or different standards, benchmarks, things like that, improving my technique, improving. You have to be so present with your training, and this is stuff that you and I talk about all the time. And it took me a long time to get there. I mean, you were telling me this, um, with our programming, and the whole like I would rather do 10 reps and set the bell down, or whatever. Do your sets and then rest in between. I still love intervals. I love training intervals. It's the ROI for whether it's a minute on, minute off, or 10 reps. it's fantastic, and for everyday life and fitness, it's fine, it's great. But to go beyond that, I can, I've told the story about my first long cycle set that you programmed for me with 24s, and how much I decided that I was never gonna, train two bells after that, and it's one of those things where like I have to be present, I have to be intentional, and like we had just said when we started, that the way you lift is the way you live, and if you're not engaged, if you're not intentional with what you're doing, if you're not present in the moment, if you're not, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a strategy, if you're just, winging things and going by feel, that's a distracted life that you're likely not getting the most out of. And that's kind of how I lean towards GS now and my training. And it's not that I can't enjoy intervals from time to time, or a part of my GPP and things like that. But the thing that really, I guess, has given me the most from the GS mindset is, or the GS methodology is, just to show up and to be present with each rep. Your breathing, your positioning, your alignment, your to build. Like, you just don't grab two bells and go 10 minutes. You build up to that, and once you hit that 10 minutes, then you improve your pacing, and then after you improve your 10 minutes and your pacing, then you add your load, and there's a whole process to this. And so often it was always just pick up a heavier bell and smash out reps. And there's no, I mean, is there a standard? Sure, but you're not being judged, you're not being held accountable, you're not. And there's just so much. I think the parallels to life, at least my life, have shown that this is something that I'm going to benefit from more than other means of training or modes of training. And that's true for me. Doesn't mean it's true for somebody else, but that's what I've gotten from it.
Yeah, we about intentional. We have a story, me and Levi, about the "fuck you, coach" thing, going back and forth. And yeah, when like for me at first, when I began to program, I was scared like shitless. I was like, oh my god, I'm programming to Levi. What have I done? Like now what can I do? Like I don't know. Like, and it's like I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. And like, okay, I'm going to build this like huge program, and like the main lifts and the GPP, and eventually when I suggested, yeah, like do two bells, you said fuck you, and then I said take lighter bells, and you said fuck you, and then you said all right, I will take lighter bells. Okay. And eventually the program got like shorter, as you said, less noise, and the pinnacle is eventually believe sending you only the main sets. That's it. And this is like this is all it took. And this is a journey of people who start because they really fear of missing out. Like if I'm not doing my GS lifts and then I don't push in there, and not that you cannot do it, the hybrid training. You can, but it needs to be programmed in some way. They fail, and they fail miserably, because when you tell them like, listen, I'm going to write only the GS sets, they feel cheated, kinda, because like I paid money, I want to see like full Excel sheet. Like, why do I see this one block of three sets and that's it? Like, it's wrong. It's kind of like I need to do more. No, you don't. If you want to progress, no, you don't. And this is the thing. But again, this is something, as you said, you grow into it. You can't just jump into this mindset. And okay, uh, and and you've mentioned the life, and you've coined a beautiful term, which I asked you to use, a fitness ADHD. When we talked in some conversations, what do you mean by fitness ADHD?